Good.
What's going on, guys? Welcome to the Too Much Test Podcast, episode 40. As always, I am here with Sam Stolt. If you want to support this podcast, check out the links in the description. You'll see HC Gains and Triggered Brand. Those are the two sponsors of this podcast. And at the top here, if you're watching, you'll see Sam's Instagram and my Instagram. You can find me on YouTube at Test Your Levels, TikTok, Instagram, and I will let Mr. Sam introduce himself to all of you fine people.
Hey, Test Your Levels, good to see you. This has been a little while. And for everybody who's listening, thank you for listening. We enjoy doing these podcasts and have been busy, so we're excited to be back on here. You can find me at Sam Stolt on pretty much any of the platforms. I do a lot of crypto stuff on YouTube, on Instagram, and on TikTok. It's more fitness-related stuff. So how you doing, bro? It's been a while.
I'm doing well. It's been busy, as you mentioned. We've both been busy, so we've been kind of hard to meet up. But yeah, I do enjoy doing these. These are a lot of fun. And I say we just jump right in. I met up with my buddy Zach, who is known as the Retro One on Instagram. He has a supplement shop here in Orlando, and he has a product called Chill Pills. And it's not like a plug. He's not sponsoring anything, but it has an ingredient in it called Kanna, which is a natural herb, which as I was looking up, is like a natural SSRI, and it's also like a cannabinoid receptor agonist. And I took one at his shop and then two before I went to sleep, and I felt a lot more relaxed. I felt a lot more like sense of just well-being and more calm, and got me thinking, like, everyone's on anti-anxiety pills and antidepressant pills when there's a lot of other alternatives like Kanna, Kava, Kratom, HTP, GABA. There's so many herbs that do similar things to what big pharma's medicine is trying to do. Like, why have these never been brought? Like, why can I walk up to anyone in the street and say, have you ever heard of Kanna, Kava, or Kratom? And they'll be like, I maybe have heard of Kratom, but that's it. Like, what are your thoughts? Like, how come there's so much good stuff out there from nature, but we've gone so off the rails with medicines that mess you up?
Yeah, I like Kanna. Is it Kanna or Kanna?
I don't know.
I think it's an A, but the Triggered brand actually has something called Mood Lifter, and that has a little bit of Kratom in it, and a little bit of caffeine, and a little bit of Kanna in it, because of those things, right? Like, if you increase serotonin, caffeine, and you feel better because of the stress reduction that comes with something like Kratom, combining those together in a certain ratio, you just have the uplifting effect of mood. Why don't we use more of these things, like, just in general? I was thinking about, like, the perfect stack. If I wanted to put together a stack for anxiety, I literally wrote this in my notes. Something like Kratom stacked with Kanna, stacked with, say, CBD of some sort, as well as Phenibut. You've heard of Phenibut as well?
It's like a nootropic, right?
Yeah, but it has a I think was developed in Russia, and it's an anti-anxiety, or it affects GABA, the same receptors of alcohol, and so when you take that, you get the intoxicated feeling from alcohol, but you don't have the motor impairment of, like, your ability to drive or do it. And I'm not saying that anybody should do any of the things that we talk about in this podcast. This is just for entertainment purposes. But
I actually, one of the research chemical companies that I follow, I can't remember which one, they sent out an email on Phenibut, and they were talking about how, like you said, it was created in Russia, and the backstory of why they created it was that it was during, like, the space missions, like some of the first space missions, and motherfuckers were getting blown up in these capsules in these rockets, and they developed it as something to give them so that they would be, like, super calm and relaxed because they were so nervous because they possibly were going to freaking blow up in a rocket. And that's one of the reasons why they had created it. I mean, I don't know much about it outside of that, but I was like, damn, I guess that's a good thing to have a nice calm and less anxiety when you're about to get shot up into like a rocket in the 60s.
Wow, isn't that also, it reminds me of, like, the story with, I don't know if it was the Soviet Union, but giving DNP to their soldiers, right? So DNP was first, I think, discovered in, like, mining operations because it's part of like TMT or explosives, dynamite, right?
And fertilizer, I think.
Yes. And the people in the cave, the people who were the miners, were actually like constantly losing weight. It didn't matter what they were doing because they're exposed to DNP. And then they figured out it was the DNP, and the Soviet Union during some war was giving it to soldiers in the winter because it also is like a thermogenic, right? It increases your body heat drastically to keep them warm in the winter.
Wow.
Like, that's kind of interesting.
That's pretty wild. Yeah. So
right?
they were still starving to death, but they felt warm. I guess that's something.
And they're dropping body fat.
Yeah. That's pretty crazy. It's crazy how some of these chemical compounds came into play.
Are you still researching with DECA and TRT? I think we have some questions too on YouTube. I'm gonna pull up.
Oh, nice.
Some in the comments. Go ahead.
No, I don't think I've taken DECA in about 3 weeks. So I think I took it for roughly about 10 weeks. I didn't have like a strict schedule, but I took out the DECA. I'm still on 250 milligrams of test. And then I got a bottle of MK677 from the Triggered brand, and I've been planning on doing some research. But I have like something coming up, and I just wanted to kind of let the DECA get out of my system a little bit just from water retention. I know MK, I've never taken MK before, so I don't know if I'm going to be, I have a feeling with my body composition, I'll probably be one of those dudes that fucking retains a lot of water. And to be honest, like people watch my YouTube channel and like watch me on TikTok and Instagram and shit, and they're like, oh, this motherfucker's crazy. He's doing like, BPC and all these crazy compounds. But a lot of the stuff, I mean, I'm actually a little nervous to take MK677, even though it's so like, it's a very safe compound and no one really has too much bad stuff. But because I want to take it at night, because I don't want to feel the hunger, so I don't keep being a fat ass, I'm just worried I'm going to be the one person that has like a super bad reaction. I take it at night, I wake up and my face is all swole up and I can't breathe or something like that. So I'm actually kind of a pussy when it comes to some of these compounds. Even though you talk about them all the time, that's funny. So when are you thinking about starting? Probably toward the end of the month.
And you're going to take it right before bed?
I think so. Yeah. I mean, to start, because I heard when you first kind of start is when you're more likely to have those hunger symptoms. And then for a lot of people, they subside over time.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't realize that's, like given that we have these conversations and like you post more of that stuff, but I know that you're, haven't necessarily tested all the different SARMs and stuff, but I didn't realize that about MK677.
Well, my first experience with SARMs was I traded a buddy of mine some product from a company that I worked that I owned for 2 bottles of SARMs, and the first one was Rad 140 and LGD, and my buddy was like, the Rad 140 is like, that one's for strength, and the LGD, that one's for size. Like I didn't know my ass from my elbow at this point, but that's essentially what he told me. So I gave the 1 bottle to my buddy, and I kept the LGD. And the LGD, for whatever reason, gave me nausea. I took it for probably about 2 weeks, and every single day it gave me nausea. I didn't have like the flu to where I felt sick, but it just made my stomach not feel great. So then when I was checking out Rad 140, I'm like, oh shit, am I going to be the guy that reacts to this? And still thinking about it with the MK677.
Oh, so that's because, do you think that jaded you a little bit?
I mean, it made me a little more hesitant, but it's not like I'm like, terrified of stuff. I've taken lots of different medicines and stuff and supplements, and I rarely have any bad side effects.
There was a question that came in from Damien in regards to Rad 140. So Rad 140 can lower prostate issues? ? That could be really interesting, adding to a TRT protocol when becoming older. This is in regards to Rad 140 and potential benefits to prostate. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
I mean, I don't have any potential thoughts. I mean, I know that in some of the research that they did on Rad 140, they did notice that I think it helped shrink the prostate a little bit. I mean, I don't think it was preventing a high PSA level. I don't think it was preventing the onset of prostate cancer, but I mean, as we get older in general, a lot of times guys get, in a large prostate, which makes them pee all the time. And I mean, I don't know. I hope maybe if I'm 55 and I have to pee all the time, I'll take some Rad 140, see what happens. But supposedly it does have good benefits on the prostate. I mean, I don't think it's been researched that well because obviously it's still a research chemical.
Yeah, yes. And one of the things that I found kind of interesting with this is completely off topic, but related to testing. So I know that HC Gains has tested certain products to check the quality of those, and the process of going through and checking those is interesting. Like I'm, going through that process myself, and it's interesting to go through and deal with the lab and get things tested out that way. And see, I've had one product that came back and it was not what it said it was, and it was interesting conversation with the lab who sold it. And I think that most companies don't actually do that. Most companies will not actually go through and spend the 150 to 350, $400 to get every single batch tested. And I didn't realize until it was like, okay, let me start getting everything tested. And then you're like, oh, okay, but take that down. That's not what it said, is what they said it was. You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's tough too, because it could be something like a one-off to where like they had 101 bottles and one falls off and they grab another one from somewhere and it's the wrong product and that's the one that you send in. It could be random, and then you never know. I mean, I know it's a lab and you're paying them to test it, but you don't know what the hell they're doing. I mean, it's obviously in probably their best interest to do it properly so you get good readings. But yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting world. I'm honestly just happy that you can buy certain stuff online and not have to deal with a bunch of bullshit, to be honest with you. Like, I was actually talking to the same guy, and he's actually knows Tony Huge, and he was talking to him, and he was like, I guess they were talking about like anxiety and just like kind of like overall feeling. And Tony was like, it's not that like you're fucked up. It's that like you're not in a place where you're free, and it's frustrating. And it's like, dealing with taxes, dealing with like, government agencies and telling you, you need this license, you need this, you've got to do this. Just all that stuff. And I don't know, I'm feeling less and less free as an American all the time. It's when I was growing up, and I think I've said this, like I was like, super patriotic. America's the best. If anyone can, create hoverboards, it's America. If anyone's going to create lasers and brand new medicine, it's America. And like we're falling behind. China's China. They're nuts. And I think this is a weird redirect. I know, but like they're playing the long game, and we're like trying to figure out which bathrooms we should pee in. You know what I'm saying?
I agree 100%. Well, also when you look at it, this like 3 years ago, I kind of started my own business, right? I had a business and then, got out of it, got back into corporate, and like you as well, right? We have this like completely, if you asked me and probably you from 2, 3, 4 years ago, that like we would make a living sitting in front of a computer talking to people, like, and that's what we're both doing. Like I sit in front of this computer, talk to a camera on a microphone and a headset, and I make money, whether it's recording a podcast, recording YouTube videos, coaching, or whatever that might be. And think about how much this has changed though in the last like 36 months. And not just because of like, I don't think that has to do with it, because before this, you'd mentioned freedom. When I was quitting at the bank, right? I used to work in banking, for anybody who's not aware, and super, super duper easy, but not at all fulfilling from my point of view. And when I quit there, one of the things that I really wanted to do was have the autonomy, the freedom to do what I wanted to do, when I wanted to do it, etc. And that was like, I was like, so what business do I need to get into that allows me to have that freedom, that geographic freedom, so I don't have to be tied to any specific location? And to look back, like that seems like it was just so recent, but look at how incredibly far I've completely changed my life, like 100%. I got like some hair in my mouth. in the last like in the last 3 years or 4 years completely changed how I live life 100%. Like most of your time probably today, I don't know where you were 4 years ago, but to put it into perspective, right? You were probably doing something else, not sitting at home where you're not driving your car other than going to the gym, right? Like your car's sitting outside, you're literally sitting inside your house in your office for the entire day. The only time you're going outside is like, oh, this is probably not super healthy to sit at my desk for 8 hours and not have any fresh air, right? Like,
yeah. Well, that's just the way that our systems work, the world works these days in general. Now, I mean, COVID came and switched that up a lot to where a lot of people are now sitting at their home in front of a computer 8 hours a day instead of, at a corporate office. But yeah, it is interesting. The world is, the internet has changed everything, everything. There was no video calls, 8-9 years ago. I'm sure there was at some level, but it's not like schlubs like us could just get online and just throw it out on YouTube in like 1080p. It was like probably super rudimentary, like dial-up internet. Yeah, it's definitely an interesting world, man. It's changing so fast. What do kids want to grow up and be these days? They want to be TikTokers and YouTubers, and it's
on the YouTube front. Did you see that YouTube Shorts is going to start paying? So currently ad revenue, if anybody doesn't know this, or they probably don't make YouTube channel, or you probably don't have a YouTube channel if you're listening to this, or if you do, you hit us up on Instagram, maybe we can do a collab. But a little dig there. There's the Instagram. There's test your levels. But I completely forgot what I was talking about with that topic.
TikTok and YouTube Shorts paying.
YouTube, thank you. So YouTube Shorts coming, I think early next year, is going to start paying a revenue split. So here's the thing, right? TikTok, I have the most amount of followers on TikTok. I'm not extremely active on it because they shut down my account. They killed 2 accounts that I have on there, and then like they would give it back to me, but there's no like momentum there or anything like that. So I might create one a week or something like that. But I know you've been very consistent with, and you've been growing very quickly over there relative to say growth on Instagram and relative to growth on YouTube. How do you think this is going to, like, because now those same format videos that you post on TikTok can be utilized on YouTube, and because they're being utilized as a YouTube short, YouTube also recommends the longer form content with it. So it's going to feed back into your longer form. And now I'll get your revenue split. Because I this is episode 40, I think. But a long time ago, I don't know if you remember, but I was talking about YouTube Shorts. I was like, guys, I was telling you and David, I was like, YouTube Shorts, I'm getting like some crazy amount of numbers right here, right? And now, 6, 7, 8, 10 months later, they're going to start paying out on this. I'm still doing 3 to 5 a day across, multiple YouTube channels. Are you going to start to, are you doing, because you had started for a little bit with YouTube Shorts.
Yeah. Hey, I didn't get any traction on fucking YouTube Shorts. Their platform is fucking trash. It's horrible to use compared to TikTok. Instagram's fucking trash too. I go on TikTok, and by the time I'm done posting it and doing all that bullshit, it's already 60% uploaded. And about 15 seconds later, boom, it's live. Instagram, when I go to pick a cover photo, it takes like 10 seconds for all the actual things to show up. Then I click on one, it's black. And then I have to back out, go back. And then finally, when I get the picture that I have, I click on it, and then it shifts to one that I don't want. And it fucking, listen, this is another thing I'm saying about the Chinese are doing shit better than us. We've got a bunch of fucking hipsters at fucking Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter worrying about where they're going to fucking take a piss. And the Chinese are over there just fucking gung-ho, 100 miles an hour. Let's get this shit done. Let's code this out. That's a bug. Fix that. And this kind of goes into, and I kind of want to get back into gear, but, yes. But I was listening to Joe Rogan. He was talking to some CIA guy, and they were talking about like, could like someone like the CIA create someone like Jeffrey Epstein to like get influence with other world leaders? And he was like, United States, absolutely not, because we work in 4-year cycles, and every 2 or 4 years, you have to like redo your budget and justify what you're doing. So because we have such short cycles, we can never do long-term plans like that. Whereas I'm not saying like China and Russia with dictatorships is better, but it's better for long-term plans and well-placed plans of world domination, so they can do like covert operations that last 20 years, whereas we do one for 4 years, and then the next administration comes in and they're like, "The fuck you guys doing? We're canceling that." So it's just interesting.
Oh, that is that. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I mean it's just interesting, and I just see like China just playing a very slow game of, and then TikTok. I mean that's Chinese malware, but you use it, I use it, my wife uses it, and a lot of people watching this and listening to this use it too. I mean think about it. TikTok, I mean, yeah, they're not now, they can not run by the Chinese, but come on, for real. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, anyway, but I mean, imagine, just think about the political power that they have when the election's coming up. They literally control the algorithm of what videos to show people. So through the videos that they watch, they figure out that someone's kind of a moderate, kind of in the middle. Whoever they want to run, they just show videos of that person, positive videos of that person. And they maybe look at someone like myself or you, and they're like, well, that's a waste of time because they're not changing their mind. We'll just show them dog videos and funny stuff.
No, that's true though. Because think about what type of weapon that is to, like, you can, if I'm able, we already know Google does this. There's plenty of research out there that shows this, how Google specifically changes the algorithm, or there's a bias to the algorithm in one direction. And it's always left, right? And TikTok can do this. Google can do this. YouTube can do this. Instagram does this in ways where most people think it's natural. Most people think it's like what they're like, just the process of like them scrolling endlessly and exploring on there. But in reality, they're just getting programmed and don't even realize this. That's why, like, what we talk about, how important your diet is to reaching your goals, right? And whether it's, fat loss or gaining muscle. And it's the same thing for your mind, right? Because it's the diet of what you're consuming, whether you're listening to something, you're watching something, or you're reading something. And people are consuming stuff that is just not good for them to, create freedom in life, create that like autonomy to do whatever it is they want. But on the
flip side, I learned a popcorn hack on TikTok that was very valuable and very worth giving up my privacy to the Chinese Communist Party. After you pop a bag of popcorn, that little slit that's in the top, so you can pull the tabs off.
Yep.
If you turn that shit upside down and start shaking it for a while, a lot of the seeds fall out, and it's enough space for the seeds to fall out, and then you can open the bag and you've got less seeds at the bottom.
Oh, and then you don't accidentally grab a bunch of popcorn to take a bite of it and shove it into your mouth and jump on a fucking seed.
I was like, does this shit actually work? And I was shaking the bag upside down, and sure as shit, a bunch of popcorn kernels came out.
I do think that TikTok is by far the most like valuable, I think, because of this, right? Because if you look at, let's say, Google Trends or YouTube Trends, right, which is the first largest search engine in the world or second largest search engine in the world.
Google Trend.
Yeah. And if you look at, say, Instagram and TikTok, or Facebook and TikTok, in terms of searches, like what people are actually searching for around the world, TikTok effing dominates these players. And so I think that because of that, and it's been long enough of this domination, right, where TikTok's continuing to win. I have a feeling that YouTube and Instagram are going to shift their focus. You know how a couple of years ago, Instagram and primarily like Facebook related stuff, but YouTube does this too, to a certain extent, but it's a little bit different, but really definitely on Instagram and Facebook, they would purposely limit your reach so that you would pay to get reach on the platform, right?
Yep.
We all remember this.
Oh, yeah.
And that's how it tends to work. That's how a lot of platforms will do this kind of stuff. But it hasn't always been the case, and it doesn't seem to be the most like natural virality type of platform out there is TikTok, where you can go out there and put, right? Didn't you say like 2 months ago, you were like, oh yeah, I got 100,000 views on this one video or something?
Oh, it's at like 367,000. I mean, that's probably 25% of the views that I've ever gotten on YouTube. And I mean, just for an example, I mean, I've done TikTok way less short of time and less content on there. I have over 14,000 followers on TikTok, and I have 3,000 something on Instagram. So, I mean, now granted, I mean, like I was actually talking to my buddy about this, you know, SARM's Info is one of the few people that I've seen like go from like 0 to like over like, I don't know where he is at now, but like 50,000. But he's putting out solid content all the time. He's doing the Instagram, the post with, he's got the cover picture. He's got 3 or 4 slides of information. He's putting that out all the time. He's the one of the few channels I've seen that's not like some dumb girl showing her tits that's just blown up, you know, just for whatever. But yeah, TikTok. And I think, well, I want to switch gears, but I think TikTok, I think they did that one video and blew up that one video because I had been doing videos for a while and then I stopped. And so I think they're like, okay, this guy's kind of on the fence about making content. We want to make content. Let's give him a little taste. Let's give him that first hit. You know, we'll get him that one video that gets 366. Let him chase that dragon, keep putting on content on TikTok and continue that world domination.
That's a very interesting theory. I like that theory.
Dangle the carrot.
Yeah, no, but it works, right? If you have a longer term view, right? Because why do Instagram, and then we'll change topics. Why does Instagram and Facebook do this to limit reach? Because they're looking near term. They're looking at the cash today. Let's fucking stop Sam's reach. Let's stop TYL's reach so that we can make them pay to get attention. Cool. It's their right? Like it's their platform. Completely understand that. But then if you think longer term, if you play the longer term game, right, then you can play games like that, whether it's organic in the algorithm, or maybe it is purposely to, hey, shit, this people who are consistently posting and providing value and have high engagement, right? Those are probably some of the metrics they use, but maybe they also do things like that to pull people back in, because then they're like, oh shit, this guy, you know, 10,000x what I have normally get on videos, and now I'm going to actually pay attention to this, right?
Yeah. And then for my original YouTube channel, as soon as they gave me that first ban and my channel got pulled down for like 2 weeks, and then they rejected my appeal, and then I eventually got it back, I stopped posting on that channel because I don't want to lose that channel. It's worth more to me just being stagnant, getting $50 or $100 in views every month. It's not worth it to me to keep posting videos and possibly lose 4 years. So on their eyes, I'm just like, I'm a dead channel, but I just shifted because I had to click the save button because they fucking stupid algorithm thought I was selling Dianabol, which fucking idiots. So I'm not selling shit. I'm selling Primo. I'm selling VAR. I'm not selling D-ball. That's like, that's like reg weed for fucking drug dealers. I'm not selling you shaken seeds. I'm selling you the crippy.
The good stuff. The good stuff. I switched up my protocol of what I'm doing. So
Grammatest, 500 deca.
I stopped doing SARMs. So which is kind of interesting because I've been off and on researching with SARMs for years and years and years and years and years and years, probably 8 years at this point. Not 8 years straight, but off and on through the 8 years. So I decided that this is probably about a month ago that I was going to stop with the SARMs, at least until the end of the year. And I went from 225 milligrams of test to about 270 milligrams of test. And just keep it simple, 270 milligrams of test. I did feel like my chest was like slightly more puffy. So I have started incorporating a little bit of Arimidex in there per week. And MK677, 1 to 5 days a week. Because that's the other thing. So you're like very, your face is a little out of focus there for a second. When you came forward, maybe the autofocus or something. But with the MK677, if you like have a adverse reaction to it, or maybe you just have like, you have a very hyper response to it, instead of maybe like a muted response, because I've been researching with it for years, you could do research with it like every other day, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, right? And on the one hand, you don't, what causes side effects? So in my book, there's 4 things that cause side effects. I call them the 4 Ds, right? The drug, so the actual compound, right? MK677 is different than Tren, right? You get different side effects. The dosage, a high dose is going to cause more side effects than a low dose, right? I can't think of a circumstance where it's the inverse, in all honesty. The duration. If I do something for a day or I do something for 6 weeks, right, which is going to cause more of a negative effect. 6 weeks, obviously. And the last one is the dude, like the actual individual. You have idiosyncratic like responses to shit that are different than mine, right? So when you look at all four of those things, well, I can't really change the dude, right? Because that's me. But what I can change is the drug. So the compound, I can perpetually switch that out, right? The dosing, okay, cool. I can change up the dosing on a regular basis. That's why instead of doing, we've talked about this before, instead of doing 300 milligrams in a week all at once, or I'll take that, maybe I'll do 1 week, I'll do the extra milligrams all in one day. And on other times I'll spread it out over 5 days a week. And sometimes I'll take a whole week off of anything extra there, because that way I'm changing up the compound, right? For the first D. The second compound is the dosing of it. And then the third, I'm also playing in there in terms of the duration, right? Because I'm not taking the same thing perpetually. But those are the four things that cause side effects. So I'm just perpetually trying to like manipulate those three, because I can only do the three of them, right? Yeah. Like I can just try to live a healthier, better functioning, less stressful life, right? Which helps with the dude portion. But the other three are just things that I need to perpetually try to monitor and regulate and modulate on a normal basis.
I mean, there's only one real way to change the dude, and that's to grow a 70s porn stash. That will totally switch up the genetics. that will switch it up. But you know what's interesting is I would be less nervous. Like, so
you should do a stash, bro.
Oh, bro, it would look horrible. I would look like a 16-year-old boy. Like I can't even like, connect this stuff right here. I know. You're more manly than me.
just do it. It'll be hilarious.
Nah, bro, I'm not.
Bro, we can come out with some merchandise. Match some like mustache merchandise. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, so I haven't, like, again, people think I'm on with all this TRT and I talk about gear that I've tried all kinds of stuff. I actually have a very limited amount of different compounds that I've tried. I've tried Test. I've tried SIP, Enanthate, Sustanon. I wouldn't even mess with Indecanoate. Never tried Propionate. The only other real compounds I've tried HCG. I tried Winstrol, which I tried to use as a PCT because I was like 20 years old. And I've tried Clomid. And I've tried like some other stuff. But I would feel more comfortable pinning probably like EQ. I'm trying to think what else. EQ or Masteron. I would feel pretty much more comfortable pinning almost any of the normal compounds than I would taking MK677 before I went to bed. Not because I think MK is scary, but just because it's more of that research compound. And I know that I react to testosterone and androgens very well, but I've never messed with anything human growth hormone related. I've never tried CJC, ipamorelin, sermorelin, MK. I've never tried any of that stuff. So it's like a new different class of medications. But bro, I'd pin EQ, Masteron, Primo. I wouldn't even really care. I'd be like, okay, I know that I'm not gonna have a bad reaction. I'm just gonna slowly feel the benefits over time in the gym.
So it's because the category one is like an anabolic versus like the HGH is kind of how you're thinking about it.
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting.
Like what if I have some weird little fucking DNA sequence tweak that like changes the way my body reacts to MK, or does something to my ghrelin or something? You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not paranoid. Like, I'm not like shaking taking the MK. I'm just kind of like putting it off a little bit, and I'm telling myself
he's just kind of a little sweaty.
Out of my little bit.
Just kind of a little sweaty there.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm sure I'll be fine, but it's just one of those things. But so I know MK is super, super safe, and a lot of people. Well, it's super safe for research, but a lot of people have really good benefits from it.
I didn't realize that's how you were, like, your perspective on that. That's very interesting. The approach you're taking to that, because it's like I want to say like a noob, but I don't want to say a noob. It's a cautious type of approach to it or something, like where we do this show, right? We like people who are listening to this who know your YouTube channel or just from Instagram are gonna be like, that's very strange, right? People
would be like, Pressure Levels is a fucking pussy. Like, what is he doing? Like, he's scared of MK. Like, I'd take MK no problem.
So what do you put like weed or like cocaine or painkillers pills and like, where do you put those in that category? Right? And box, you're like, cool. And anything good with that.
Yes, well, you're kind of breaking up there, but well, I mean, so I have experience with marijuana when I was younger. It's not really for me. It makes me paranoid, actually, to be honest, in a lot of cases. Cocaine, I'm not going to say on camera that I've ever tried, but I wouldn't be scared to try it. I'm not worried about, well, let's just say if you showed me like raw, like actual real, like I know this is 100% real shit. Like if I knew this was real MDMA or real heroin or something, and I knew it was how pure it was or something, and I could accurately dose it, I wouldn't be scared of it. I mean, I wouldn't at this point in my life,
even heroin?
It depends on the situation. Like if they were, okay, we're doing a study where like we're gonna test this and we're gonna give you like this scientific dosage, like I would be interested just to try it, just because it's intriguing to me of how people can throw their lives away because of something. And it makes me intrigued as to how does that feel. But nowadays drugs are fucking garbage. Everything's laced with fentanyl. I was actually talking to someone and they were saying, it was actually someone on TikTok. They were saying that they are lacing meth with fentanyl, right? Two completely polar medicines. Meth gets you up, fentanyl brings you down. And you think, why would they do that? You know, that doesn't really make sense. It's like a speedball, but it doesn't make the meth any better. The reason that they're doing it is because there's so many people that sell meth. But if you buy meth from the same person for 3 days, you have a bunch of fentanyl in your system. Now, once that fentanyl starts dropping off, you're going to start having withdrawals. And that other person's meth isn't going to fix that withdrawals. You're still going to feel like shit. So you're going back to the same dude that has the same stuff you've been using. Then those withdrawals go away. So not only are you hooked on meth, but you're hooked on this one dealer's meth because you don't want to go through the withdrawals, whether you realize that's what's happening or not. So they're using fentanyl to addict you to their drug. Doesn't matter what drug it is. Think about that. Like that's fucked up.
So fentanyl, is that more like a cocaine type of thing, like an upper?
No, fentanyl is like a super powerful synthetic heroin / morphine. It's like 1,000 times more powerful than morphine and heroin.
Fentanyl's even more like worse than heroin is?
Oh, dude. It's like the tiniest little amount. Like they caught some guy with something. It was like, I don't know, however many pills, but they said it was like enough to kill like an entire like 3 counties in Florida. Like there's people that there have been police officers that have died because they're searching people and they're patting them down and they'll tap like the bag or something, and that some of the powder will float up in the air and they'll breathe it in and it will fucking be too much and will kill them. That's how powerful fentanyl is. Yeah. Damn. Bro, it's like no joke. My wife's dad was in the hospital for something pretty bad, and they had a bottle of fentanyl, and they use it, and it's like super diluted, and they dose it through this machine or whatever. But it's used for like legally, yeah. It's legally, it's illegal. It's not a medicine. It's something used in hospitals to like, I don't know if it's to keep people in like comas or to keep them out. I don't know exactly what it's used for, but on the street, it is so powerful that little tiny specks can fucking kill you or make you OD.
Holy shit. I didn't know that. Is that what Prince?
China supplies the raw ingredients for it to Mexico. Mexico makes it. And considering we pretty much have an open border, they're just walking across with it. And now I read another article. They're making, I don't know if you've ever seen ecstasy pills, but they typically are a certain color and they have a certain type of stamp, like a Rolls Royce or a Clover or something. And they're basically creating fentanyl pills, all different colors, looking like that. So, I mean, imagine a kid who comes across something and they think it's a little piece of candy, dead.
Or they think it's MDMA and it's actually fentanyl. Right.
Yeah.
One thing that I bet is actually increasing so if you look at like Gen Z, the amount of people who are self-reporting of drinking alcohol is dropping, right? Which makes sense. That makes sense to me that there's a generation, right, that are like, oh shit, alcohol fucks you up. Alcohol is poison, right? And that kind of thing. And so they're actually drinking a lot less alcohol than previous generations. But I think that maybe overall drug use could be up, or experimentation with that. And if you I don't know if you're in like EDM or that kind of type of music, but that type of music has been on the rise, has been on the come up for a long, and it just keeps gaining more and more. Like I've been listening to that shit for over 15 years,
Yeah.
right? Since I was a teenager. That's
Mm-hmm.
a long time ago. And it's been right. It's been on the come up for so long. And I think
it's a funny story that techno is one of the reasons that I have experimented with certain different compounds that are maybe associated with euphoria, dancing, and stuff like that. And
like, what? Dude, I don't know anything. This is what...
Techno, dude. Techno is the shit. I love techno. Because I ran out of rock to listen to. I don't know. I don't think there's any like huge, massive band right now that kicks ass. Like the last band that I'm sure there are smaller bands that are still badass, but I just don't know about them because I don't follow that. So the last major band that I really, really liked was Five Finger Death Punch. And they put out an album every once in a while. But I can't listen to that shit in the gym for a year. So I pretty much listen to like hardcore, like dubstep, dark step. Like I listen to like Excision. I'm trying to think. Excision, Datsik. There's a bunch of them. Boogie T is a new guy that I found. And what's cool about techno is like, okay, you listen to rock and roll, you put on Pandora, it's going to play all the same shit you've already heard. Shit. You put on techno, because I listen to techno while I'm working, and I'll be like, oh, shit, that's a pretty dope-ass song. Oh, I've never even heard of this guy. Click on YouTube, search him up, listen to it. Oh, shit, this guy's badass. And I'll create a channel for him on Pandora, and then I'll be like, oh, that's a badass song. I've never heard this guy before. So it's so cool because there's so many different people out there from all over the world. And you don't need a full band. You don't need a fucking stage and a thing. You just need a laptop, program, and an internet connection. And that's it. Everyone can make music.
And to your point, though, on like, the rock band, right? They might come out with a new album every year, a couple of years or something like that. But with techno, there's new shit all the time because they'll incorporate. Have you ever heard of soca or soco or whatever? It's like Western Caribbean type music. And there's the Caribbean carnival that has also been growing in popularity, which that type of music is growing. But when you think of like DJ, techno, EDM, whatever you want to classify it. And I know if you're down the weeds, like you're like, well, you can't say those things are all separate kind of things or whatever. But to the masses, it's kind of like all the same thing.
Yeah.
And that is like the newspaper in the sense that they take the top stories in terms of top music in other areas and they put it all together and they synthesize the music, right? Because they'll take soco type music, they'll take like little bits of jazz, they'll take pop, they'll take rock, they'll take all this type of music and put it together and blend it to be this fucking dope. Like,
yeah, what's cool about dubstep and techno in general is that it can go with other stuff. Like if you look up like Five Finger Death Punch dubstep, there's someone that's put together some type of shit where the background is dubstep. You'll probably have a guitar in there, and it's, dude, I'm telling you, I tell people all the time, check out dubstep, listen to dubstep, dark step. They have so many different kinds, but just look up like dubstep, listen to a bunch of stuff. You can get fucking amped on some dubstep in the gym. That's what I listen to for the most part.
One of the biggest like things that this is actually a good question for you. What is the biggest, and I'm going to answer it first so I don't forget. What is the biggest like change that you've made that you are getting a tremendous amount of value from? For me, it was an app. I was using Pandora for well over a decade, and I switched for the first time to SoundCloud. And the reason is because on Pandora, you hear the same fucking shit all the time, but also, excuse me, every 6 minutes, 12 minutes or whatever, you hear ads, right? Which is perfectly fine, right? You got to make your money. But with SoundCloud, if you pull up like Excision or you pull up like, they have the entire set. So it's 36 minutes, it's an hour and 47 minutes, and there's no ads. It's awesome. So because I stuck with Pandora for a long time, but go ahead. I want you to hear.
No, it's interesting. I mean, I'm familiar with SoundCloud. I thought more of SoundCloud was a place where smaller people could put their music up and people could find them. I didn't realize that you could like stream like that, like sets and all that stuff. That's pretty cool. I'll have to check that out. It's interesting. I used to be into TV streaming, and I used to use a program called Kodi. And there was a Pandora app within this app, Kodi, and he had some script where you never got ads. And I've logged into that script. And ever since, I have very minimal ads on. Like I maybe hear ads once a day on Pandora on the computer, and then maybe once an hour on a computer, because my account is like, it's got something on it where I don't get ads very often.
That's interesting. Wild. So what, over the past, say, month or 2 months, what is the thing that you bought or did differently that you're getting the most amount of value from? Whether it's on your phone, technology, life at home, what's one thing?
From what I bought was definitely Fleshlight. That has definitely made me more productivity. No, I went from, so this was, I mean, this is not really necessarily recent, but when I'd say probably 6 months into COVID, I canceled my Sirius subscription. I couldn't listen to Howard Stern anymore. I know that he's a lot more liberal in general, overall, but I still found him very funny. I found the all the bits that they do very funny, and I'm sure they still are. But I just got sick of him calling me an idiot. So I was like, you know what? I'm paying for this, so I'm not paying to be called an idiot. So I got Spotify. I started listening to Joe Rogan. I started listening to like Huberman. I started listening to Coinbase has a podcast.
Really?
Yeah, it's called Around the Block or something. Or I'm sure if you type in Coinbase and Spotify, it'll pop up.
Huh.
And Huberman Lab. Yeah. Oh yeah. So it's not super in depth. It's probably it's more high end than probably where you're at, because you have a crypto podcast. So I assume that you dive pretty deep. But I found a lot of the time I'll listen to the podcast in the gym because I feel like I'm learning something, or I'm gaining some like world view, or getting an outside view of different stuff. Sometimes, depending on the workout, though, I'm like, all right, fuck this. I got to put on some dubstep, and I got to get ramp this up. But I've been listening to, in my car and in the gym, podcasts. And I just feel like I'm learning a lot more about podcasts, just learning more than listening to funny shit, which is nothing wrong with that. But I feel like I'm learning and enriching my mind a little bit more.
So one last question here, and then we'll wrap things up here. What is one idea? What is one thing that you've heard or paid attention to from these other podcasts that we can do to implement to grow faster with this podcast? And we want to hear from you guys too. So if you're listening at this point, take a screenshot, write your fucking answer down, tag us on Instagram, or just send it to us on Instagram. Links up above. Go ahead, sir.
I've got a lot of answers. I would say, A, we need to be more consistent. B, I need to remember to look at my camera and not down at you on the screen, because I'm sure people are watching. So we definitely consistency. Probably need to curse less. Probably need to talk less about our social media things, because a lot of people don't deal with this shit. Probably just talk more about taking gear and just getting fucking jacked and juicy.
Although I'm curious if you guys are still here listening. Do you enjoy the interplay of the social media stuff, the things that we're working on that are like going on in our lives around this stuff, or do you just like the gear type of talk? Because I would bet that a lot of people actually do like that kind of stuff, because then when I talk to somebody, or you talk to somebody, it's like they know you to a certain extent, even though like we've never actually met the person before, but we've shared so much about ourselves that other people have like a much better a broader view of like who we are, because we share so much about it. So I think that could be valuable, but definitely would like to come up with some ideas on how we can grow this. If you'd like to support the channel, guys, make sure to leave us a review. You are actually how we grow, is by the support from you guys, the reviews you guys leave, the stuff that you guys reach out to us with, like, so it's very, very helpful. If you'd like to support the podcast here, leave us a review. You can check out the sponsors down here, hcgains.com or thetriggeredbrand.com. TYL.
Don't even go to HC Gains. Just find my new YouTube channel in the description. That's all I care about. I don't want your money. Just come watch me on YouTube. Tell your friends to come watch the chubby white kid on gear and the tan guy with the thin mustache. Tell them to come and find us there and watch our shit.
Cool. Hey, good seeing you, bro.
Good seeing you too. You guys at home, you guys are awesome.